Hi friends, Aman here from Newfoundland to sail with you for another beautiful journey of PIDP 3230 with our captain, our wonderful instructor, Dr. Doug Major. Dr. Major has given me a Pandora box filled with certain keys of classroom assessment techniques so as to open the locks of the brain boxes, and as we know, every box unique of its own kind. We educators often focus on the ideas that we want our audience to have, but the research and finding tell us that learning proceeds primarily from the prior knowledge. Prior knowledge can be at odds with the presented material, and the consequences will be learners will distort the presented material. So let's have insight of few informal assessment strategies which are the most effective tools to explore the minds of our learners even before we begin. Even before we enter our classrooms, so many dimensions are running in our mind: declarative, procedural, conditional, reflective, metacognitive, and so on and so on, from the learner's point of view as well as from our own point of view. The best preparation to have to stand on the top raised edge, and that edge is classroom assessment. It is systematically collection of the evidence of learning, and then using that evidence to change and improve our teaching. The main characteristic of the assignment should be goal-oriented, learner-centered, teacher-directed, mutually beneficial, formative, context-specific, and ongoing. And why do we assess? Because it's a beautiful bridging of teaching and learning. And also, we come to know, are they learning what we think we are teaching? Then what is the significance of informal assessment? Well, it helps to identify many learning barriers. Those barriers can be misconceptions, difficulties, troublesome knowledge, application disconnects, and so on. Well, very rightly said. By right, that classroom assessment helps to improve the interest in learning, and it changes the attitudes and the behaviors, that is making students more self-reflective. As far as I am concerned, so far these sevens have been my favorite classroom assessment strategies. Or let me put it this way, that the rest are the gift of PIDP 3230, and surely I am going to use them in future, like primary trait analysis or chain notes or reading reaction or paper reaction. Now this is very important, that which technique to select at a particular point, or rather which is a right tool for a specific unit or a class or a program or any lecture. Let me take an example. Suppose I have to teach the honor school's biochemistry. For all the 4 different years, my strategy has to differ. Well, the first one, that is assessing prior knowledge, recall and understanding, it is the one which will go in every of the session. It's very important to know the prior knowledge. But suppose I have to teach the second year honor school, then I'll change little bit using the assessing skill in synthesis and creative thinking along with the prior knowledge tool. And again in the third year, where the concepts change, I will be using the skill in application and performance. And going to the last year, where the students have to submit their dissertation and they have to depend more on the research work, my assessing tool will change. It will be in analysis and critical thinking. Therefore, selection of the right technique for a lecture or a course or a chapter or a unit or a program is the most important step in classroom assessment. For example, if we have to use to assess the prior knowledge, recall and understanding, my favorite are background knowledge probe, the 1-minute paper, and the muddiest point. And it is not necessary that I'm going to use only one tool at a time. I may combine all the 3 of them, which I'll be talking in the end once we discuss the validity and reliability. And then in assessing skill in synthesis and creative thinking, definitely the one sentence summary is my favorite. For assessing skill in application and performance, I can choose any one of these: directed paraphrasing or application card or student generated test question or project prospects. And in the analysis and critical thinking, the best tool I prefer are pro and con grid, analytic memo, or the memory matrix. Again, before I start with assessing prior knowledge recall and understanding tool, the background knowledge probe, I remember one quote of Plutarch, that the mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled. That is what I believe in when I enter my classroom. So the background knowledge probe, why it is my favorite and why it fits everywhere, because it can be used as early as the first class meeting and it goes well with any of the class size. It helps to assess the changes in the student, their knowledge, concision in responding. Same or the similar questions can be used at the midpoint or end of the lesson term or unit. And it is designed to collect much more specific, more useful, and the most important, the feedback on students' prior learning. Then why should we actually assess the student's prior knowledge? When research tells us new knowledge is built upon what one already knows and believes. So prior knowledge can hinder or block students from learning the new material, as mentioned by Bransford. And then background knowledge probe. When I use a short and simple questionnaire I can give when I start a course, or before I begin a new unit, or before speaking about a new topic, when it helps me to figure out where to begin teaching on any given topic. Let me again take an example. Suppose I have to teach the liver disease hepatitis. Then what will be my questionnaire for the background knowledge probe? I may put up these questions. What is hepatitis? How is hepatitis transmitted? Again, what are the risk behaviors that may increase the chance of exposure? Or what do you think scanning of liver of the patient is important? Or why you think hepatitis A can spread faster than B or C type? Now, the reason for picking up this example is to actually lay emphasis on validity of background knowledge probe. Now, what are the shortcomings of background knowledge probe? My students may not share the knowledge or may not take it seriously. To lay emphasis on that, it's very important that I put some stimulating statements or the appropriate effective probe terms. And again, query of large enough sample of students is important. Then plan and prepare good probe questions. For example, in the example of hepatitis, I have kept one very easy question, like why should we scan the liver? If anyone knows it is a disease of hepatitis, it is obvious. It's a very simple answer. But again, I have also picked up a very challenging question, that why hepatitis A is going to spread faster than hepatitis B and C. And if we use the course outcome as guideline, it definitely ensure our content validity. Coming to the predictive validity, even though it may not predict that how well learner will do in future, but for sure, it predicts their prior knowledge or selectional knowledge. Using background knowledge probe will ensure predictive validity at the beginning, during, and end of the course. And background knowledge probe may not fully measure as professionalism or say ability to solve any scientific problem, but it is a good starting point to know where are they at the beginning and where have they reached at the end. That is, it ensures the construct validity. Again, the questions that relate specifically to the constructs. As background knowledge probe is a kind of informal assessment, it won't take much of the time. Thus, it is beneficiary on the ground of consequences validity. Coming to the process validity, one easy question was put in so as for confidence. And again, one challenging question was put in to ensure the curiosity of the learning. So these points are very, very important to be kept in mind while using the background knowledge probe. Alignment. Well, that is very, very important while using any of the tool. As I use course outcome as guideline to ensure that what I am assessing matches with what is being taught at the end of the level of curriculum. That is, it leads to perfect alignment. While focusing on my validity, my classroom assessment technique should have consistency, that is, reliability, in terms of measuring what is meant to be measured each time, beginning, during, or end of the topic, unit, program, or a course. We should try not to let expectations for students' performance influence our judgment. That is something that is we should avoid assessing students when obviously they are not feeling well, or administer assessment in a similar way under similar condition for all the set of the students in the same class. And coming to the appropriate feedback, I will call it the backbone of classroom assessment because it encourages the learners with good prior knowledge to share with others and assist them. It helps to clarify the misconceptions and not having unrealistic expectation based on classroom assessment results. Timely feedback and explanation of the area to be focused is very, very important. And then, what are the tips to make sense of our data of the background knowledge flow? Well, we can organize the paper into piles. That is, we can make out the wrong knowledge, no background knowledge, some relevant knowledge, significant knowledge, and this data definitely collected by summing the individual merits for each question. An instructor can find out whether the class as a whole has more knowledge about the said topic than about others, as well reported by Angelo and Grasson in their book in page 124. Now, what is the most watchful tip for background knowledge pro? It is the halo effect, or rather I'll call it halo error, a beautiful term coined by psychologist Edward Thorndike. And the halo error is actually a cognitive biases in which our judgment of a person's character can be influenced by overall impression of him or her. It is very important during background knowledge pro because it is generally found in the classroom in everyday interaction between learner to learner or learner to instructor. Now, as I said in the beginning, I sometimes love to mix two tools for beginning, during, and end. That is, while ending my any of the lectures, I love to use the minute paper or half sheet response. Because the last minute of the class, if I ask what was the most important point made in the class today, or what unanswered questions do you still have, they really help. They can be used in labs, discussions, as well as lectures, and it helps us to know what course changes are needed. It helps students to learn how to separate out the major points from detail. And again, my favorite is the muddiest point, which was developed by, again, Dr. Frederick Mosteller, professor of statistics at Harvard. In other words, this muddiest point is what was least clear to you. It's a simple question that tells you where your students are struggling in today's topic, lecture, discussion, homework, assignment, lab, or reading. This is a beautiful tool to end with. And here are the references which I have picked up during this session of Angelo, Bransford, Mosteller, Walwood, or Wright, which you can refer. And these are some very beautiful classroom assessment technique websites which can be used by all of my peers. And definitely, the video which I used in the beginning has been taken by me while my journey from Nova Scotia to Newfoundland. I thank you, all of my friends, for listening, and definitely I shall thank my instructor, Dr. Doug Major from Vancouver Community College, BC, for all his encouragement, teachings, and inspiration. And to end with, if you wish to enjoy full animation, that what can be the common problems which can occur during using classroom assessment techniques. I'm sure you are going to enjoy it. Good day.